All right, so you're ready to dive into the world of customizable math apps.
Sounds like it.
These apps are supposed to help primary school students really get those math concepts.
Yeah, they can be super helpful.
We found this really cool workshop put on by, of all places, Singapore's Ministry of Education.
Wow, really? The Ministry of Education in Singapore.
Yep, they seem to be really invested in finding new ways to teach math.
I mean, it's interesting, right? It shows they're really thinking about this stuff seriously.
For sure, and it looks like they're moving away from just rote memorization and drills.
Which, let's be honest, can be pretty boring for kids.
Totally, and it doesn't always lead to deep understanding.
No, definitely not. These apps are more about getting kids to interact and engage with the concepts.
Making it fun. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not just about fun. It's about making those connections between concrete ideas and abstract ones.
Yeah.
Bridging that gap that can be so tricky for kids.
Okay, so how do these apps actually do that?
Let's take fractions as an example.
Yeah, fractions can be tough for a lot of kids.
All right, so traditionally you might use something like a pie chart.
Okay, I get it, visually dividing it up.
Exactly. But with an app, you can do so much more.
Like what?
Well, kids can actually manipulate shapes on the screen, break them apart, put them back together, and see how the fraction changes right in front of them. It really helps them see how those visual and numerical representations connect.
Okay, so it's like hands-on learning, but in a digital space.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And this workshop, it actually shows educators how to use and customize these apps.
Yeah, they walk you through the whole process. It's pretty cool. It's designed to be super hands-on, so teachers actually get to try out different apps and see how they work.
Oh, wow. So they're not just talking about the theory. They're actually giving teachers the tools to use these apps in their classrooms.
Exactly. And they even show you how to modify the apps to fit your specific student's needs. It's like professional development, but way more interactive.
I like that. Sounds much more engaging than just sitting through a lecture.
Definitely. So they highlight some interesting example apps, like there's one called Numbers from 1 to 100.
Numbers from 1 to 100. That sounds pretty basic.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, what's so special about counting to 100?
Well, it's not just about counting. It's about exploring things like odd and even numbers, multiples, factors, all those fundamental building blocks of number sense.
So it's helping them see the patterns in numbers, the relationships between them.
Exactly. And that's what sets them up for success with more complex math concepts later on.
Got it. And they also have this app called Mass or Weighing Scale Model.
Oh, yeah, that one looks really fun.
I bet it's a lot more engaging than doing worksheets with word problems about weight.
I think so, too. It uses a virtual scale to help students understand measurement in decimals.
Oh, so they can actually see how decimals work in a practical context.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just memorizing formulas, they're actually seeing it in action.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. Now, besides individual apps, they also mentioned something called an ICT toolkit. What is that?
So ICT stands for Information and Communication Technology.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the toolkit is basically a collection of digital tools that educators can use to enhance math learning.
So it's like a digital toolbox full of resources for math teachers.
Exactly. And they've organized it into different categories to make it easier to find what you need.
What kind of categories are we talking about?
Well, there are natural fit tools, which are programs specifically designed for math learning. Like one example they give is Georgia Malibra. You ever use that?
I've heard of it, yeah, but I don't really know much about it.
It's awesome. It's a platform for interactive geometry.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, students can construct shapes and manipulate them on the screen, measure angles and sides, and really get a hands-on understanding of geometry.
That's amazing. Definitely beats just drawing static shapes on paper.
For sure. Then they have virtual manipulatives.
Oh, like those blocks and counters you'd find in a traditional classroom, but digital.
Right, and they have a link to the National Library of Virtual Manipulatives.
Wow, I bet that has tons of stuff.
I think so. It seems like it has just about everything you can imagine. It's
Yeah.
really cool. Then, of course, you've got your collaboration and communication platforms like Google Apps for education.
Right. Those are essential these days.
Super helpful for group projects and just for students to share their work with each other. And then you have your tools for formative assessment, like Kahoot.
Oh, I love Kahoots.
Yeah, it's a great way to make assessment more fun and engaging for students. And they also have educational games from websites like Math Playground.
So they've really got all the bases covered.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive.
But wait, I thought the focus was on customizable math apps.
You're absolutely right.
So how does the customization part work? Do teachers need to know how to code or something?
Well, some apps do offer more advanced customization options that might require some technical skills, but a lot of them are designed to be really user-friendly.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, you can often adjust things like the difficulty level, the types of problems, even the visual layout, all without any coding.
So it sounds like there are options for teachers with different levels of tech expertise.
Exactly. And the workshop provides support and guidance for everyone, no matter your skill level.
That makes sense. So it's not just about throwing a bunch of apps at teachers and saying, figure it out. They're actually providing the training and support to use them well.
You got it. And the cool thing is that they encourage the participants to share their own experiences. They even encourage suggesting features they'd like to see added, or even collaborating on developing new apps.
Wow, so it's a very collaborative approach.
Very much so. And I think that's what makes this workshop so unique. It's not just about using technology, it's about building a community of educators who are all working together to improve math education.
That's a great point. So we've talked about what customizable math apps are and why they're useful.
And we talked about this amazing workshop from Singapore's Ministry of Education.
Right. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Why should educators care about all of this? What's the big deal?
Well, I think this approach has the potential to really change how we teach and learn math, like fundamentally change it.
Okay, but how? What kind of changes are we talking about?
Well, for one, it can help with student engagement. Most kids love playing games on their tablets and phones.
That's true. They're practically glued to them sometimes.
Right. So why not harness that and use it to make learning math more fun?
So it's not just about making math more fun, though, right?
No, definitely not. It's about getting kids to really understand the concepts.
So they're not just memorizing, they're actually internalizing the ideas.
Exactly. And when they understand the concepts deeply, they're more likely to succeed in math later on.
And they might even start to see math as something that's relevant to their lives, not just some boring subject they have to learn in school.
Right. It's about making it meaningful. You mentioned the workshop encourages collaboration among educators, right?
Yeah, they do. What does that look like in practice?
Well, they set aside time for participants to share their experiences, the good and the bad. And they encourage them to connect with each other online, share ideas and resources.
It's like creating a support system for teachers who are trying new things.
Yeah, exactly. And that support can be so important, especially for teachers who are new to using technology in their classrooms.
It can feel overwhelming sometimes, for sure.
Absolutely. So having that community, that network of people who understand what you're going through can make a big difference.
So it's like having a team of cheerleaders and troubleshooters all rolled into one.
Exactly. It can help teachers feel more confident and empowered to try new things.
Okay, so in this first part of our deep dive, we've covered a lot of ground.
We talked about what these customizable math apps are, why they're useful,
We talked about that workshop from Singapore's Ministry of Education.
and how it's helping teachers to use these apps effectively.
We also touched on the benefits for both teachers and students.
More engagement, deeper understanding, a more collaborative learning environment. But we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
Definitely. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to take a closer look at how these customizable math apps can be used to address different learning styles and needs.
We'll also talk about some of the challenges that educators might face in implementing this approach and discuss strategies for overcoming those challenges.
That sounds great. Looking forward to continuing our exploration.
Me too.
You were saying earlier that these customizable math apps can actually cater to different learning styles.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, can they really adapt to the needs of different students?
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things about them.
I can see how that would be a game changer in a classroom, with so many different learners.
Totally. It's all about making math more accessible to everyone.
So give me an example. How would an app, let's say, help a visual learner?
Okay, well, visual learners, they really benefit from seeing things, right?
Right.
Like representations of the concepts.
Right, they need those visuals.
So let's say you're teaching geometry, something like the concept of area.
Okay, area, yeah.
Instead of just throwing a formula at them, the app could let them play around with shapes.
Like on the screen.
Yeah. They can change the dimensions, see how the area changes in real time.
Oh, I see. So they can actually see how the formula works, not just memorize it.
Exactly. And they can try out different shapes, break them down, really visualize what's going on.
That makes so much more sense than just trying to picture it in your head.
Right. And what about kinesthetic learners?
Hmm.
Those kids who need to move around, learn by doing.
Oh, yeah, they're always fidgeting.
There are apps for them too. Imagine an app where they can use their fingers or a stylus to actually drag numbers onto a number line.
Oh, wow, like a digital version of those manipulatives we used to have.
Yeah. Or they could manipulate objects on a virtual balance scale.
That's really cool. So it's really bringing those hands-on activities into the digital world.
Exactly. And the best part is, these apps can track student progress.
Oh, so the teacher can see how each student is doing.
Yep, and they can provide feedback in real time, so the teacher can help if a student is struggling.
Okay, this is starting to sound amazing, but let's be real for a second. There have to be some challenges, right? Like, what are some of the downsides?
You're right, it's not all sunshine and roses.
So what are some of the potential pitfalls?
Well, one of the big ones is access to technology.
Right. Not every student has a tablet or a computer at home.
Exactly. So schools need to make sure that all students have the devices they need to use these apps.
I think a lot of schools are already working on that, especially after all the remote learning we've had.
Yeah, for sure. And another challenge is professional development for teachers.
Right. Teachers need to know how to use these apps effectively.
Definitely. And not just a one-time workshop. They need ongoing training and support.
Makes sense. Technology changes so fast, it's hard to keep up.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technical stuff. Teachers also need support in figuring out how to integrate these apps into their lessons.
Right. It's not about just replacing traditional teaching methods altogether. It's about finding ways to use these apps to enhance what they're already doing.
You got it. And I know some teachers might be hesitant. Maybe they feel like they're not tech savvy enough.
Oh, yeah, I can see that being a barrier.
But I would say to those teachers, start small. Don't try to do everything at once.
Like, pick one app that looks interesting and give it a try.
Exactly. See how your students respond. You might be surprised by how much they enjoy it.
And there are so many resources out there to help teachers get started.
Tons of resources. Don't be afraid to reach out to other teachers, join online communities, look for professional development opportunities.
It's all about finding that support system.
Right. And remember, the goal isn't to become a tech expert overnight.
It's about using technology to make your life easier as a teacher and to help your students learn more effectively.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about some of the challenges, but let's get back to the good stuff.
Yeah, let's focus on the positive.
You said earlier that this approach could be transformative for math education.
I did, and I'm curious to hear you expand on that a little bit.
Okay, well, I think this has the potential to really shift how we think about math education. Traditionally, math has been seen as this really abstract, difficult subject.
Right, like only certain people are good at math.
Yeah, exactly. And that can create so much anxiety for students.
Especially for kids who have struggled with math in the past.
Absolutely. But what if we could change that perception? What if we could help students see math as something that's fun and accessible to everyone?
I love that idea. So how do we make math less scary and more inviting for students?
Well, I think customizable math apps are a big part of the answer. They can let students learn at their own pace.
So they don't feel rushed or pressured.
Right. And they can get immediate feedback so they don't feel lost or frustrated.
And the apps can make math more visual, more interactive, which just makes it more fun.
Exactly. It's about creating a more positive learning environment.
So students feel comfortable making mistakes and learning from them.
Yeah, it's about encouraging a growth mindset. The idea that you can get better at math with effort and practice.
I love that. It's about fostering a love of learning, not just focusing on grades.
Absolutely. And when students are genuinely interested in learning, they learn so much more.
Okay, so we've talked about customizable math apps, constructivist learning, growth mindset. It feels like all these ideas are connected.
They are. It's like a whole new way of thinking about what math education could be,
So we're moving away from the old, rigid way of teaching math.
towards something more dynamic, more creative, more student-centered.
And this benefits teachers too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's so rewarding for teachers to see their students excited about learning math.
Yeah, to see them making progress and really understanding the concepts.
Right. And these apps can help teachers save time on things like grading so they can spend more time actually teaching.
It's like they give teachers superpowers.
I like that. They give teachers the power to create more engaging and effective learning experiences.
And to personalize learning for each student.
Exactly. It's pretty exciting to think about all the possibilities.
It is. But as with any big change in education, there are going to be some bumps in the road.
For sure. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take time and effort.
And we need to keep those potential pitfalls in mind.
Definitely. Things like ensuring equitable access to technology and making sure teachers have the training and support they need.
Those are big hurdles.
They are. But I'm optimistic. I think we can overcome these challenges.
And create a future where math education is engaging and empowering for all students.
Exactly.
You've given us a lot to think about. So far, we've talked about how these customizable math apps can work for different types of learners.
We've talked about the challenges and some strategies for implementing this new approach.
And we've touched on the bigger picture, the impact this could have on math education as a whole.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But I'm curious to dig a little deeper into the philosophy behind all of this. It seems like there's more to this than just, using cool new tech in the classroom.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's like there's a whole philosophy behind it.
There is. It really aligns with what's called a constructivist approach to learning.
Constructivist learning. Okay, I've heard that term before, but
It's the idea that students learn best by actively building their own understanding, not just passively absorbing information.
so it's not about just telling them what to think. It's about giving them the tools to figure things out for themselves.
That's it. And customizable math apps, they're perfect for this.
Because they give students that freedom to explore and experiment
Exactly. It's like a digital playground where they can try things out, make mistakes, and learn from those mistakes.
without feeling like they're going to be judged or penalized.
Exactly. They can go at their own pace,
Yeah.
try different approaches, and see what works.
And it takes some of the pressure off, you know? They don't have to worry about getting the right answer right away.
Right. It's more about the process of learning, the journey, not just the destination.
And that ties into that idea of growth mindset, right?
Yes. It encourages students to believe that they can get better at math, that it's not just about innate ability.
It's about effort and perseverance.
Exactly. And when students believe they can improve, they're more likely to stick with it, even when it gets tough.
And they're more likely to find joy in the process, not just see it as something they have to get through.
Absolutely. It's about fostering a love of learning for its own sake.
So we've gone from customizable math apps to constructivist learning to growth mindset. It feels like it's all coming together, like a whole new vision for math education is emerging.
It is. It's a vision of math as something that's dynamic and creative, not just rigid and rule-bound.
And it's student-centered, right? It puts the needs of the learner first.
Exactly. And it's not just good for students, it's good for teachers, too.
How so?
Well, I think it brings back some of the joy of teaching.
You know that excitement of seeing your students light up when they finally grasp a concept?
Yeah. And these apps can help free up teachers' time so they can focus on those more meaningful interactions with their students.
Instead of being bogged down with grading or paperwork.
Exactly. It's about giving teachers the tools and support they need to do what they do best, which is teach.
It really does feel like these tools could give teachers superpowers.
I love
Yeah.
that analogy. They really do empower teachers to create more engaging and effective learning experiences.
Okay, so it's a pretty exciting vision, but we have to be realistic, right?
Of course.
There are going to be challenges, roadblocks along the way.
Yeah, it's not going to be a smooth ride all the time.
We need to make sure all students have access to the technology.
And that teachers get the training and support they need.
Those are big issues.
They are, but I think they're solvable issues.
With enough commitment and collaboration.
Exactly. It's going to take all of us working together to make this vision a reality.
But I think it's a vision worth fighting for.
I agree.
So where do we go from here? What's next for customizable math apps?
Well, I think we're going to see even more sophisticated apps.
Like what kind of sophisticated?
Apps that use artificial intelligence and machine learning to really personalize the learning experience.
Wow, so the app could actually adapt to each student's individual needs.
Yeah, like you could identify their strengths and weaknesses and adjust the difficulty level accordingly.
That's amazing. It's like having a personal tutor for every student.
Exactly. And I think we'll see more integration of things like virtual reality and augmented reality.
Oh, wow. That's really taking it to the next level.
Imagine students being able to step inside a geometric shape or manipulate virtual objects in a way that feels almost real.
That would be incredible. It's like making math come alive.
Right. And I think we'll see a bigger emphasis on open educational resources.
So more teachers creating and sharing their own apps.
Exactly. It's about democratizing access to these tools, making it possible for everyone to create and share amazing learning experiences.
Well, you've definitely given me a lot to think about. And I have to say, you've made me pretty optimistic about the future of math education.
I'm glad to hear that. I really do believe this is a game changer.
So what does this all mean for you, dear listener? You're interested in bringing these customizable math apps into your classroom.
It's an exciting journey.
Maybe start by checking out some of the resources we mentioned in the show notes.
There are tons of great apps and websites out there.
Experiment. See what works for you and your students.
You don't have to dive in all at once, just take it one step at a time.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
There's a whole community of educators out there who are exploring this new frontier.
Reach out, connect with other teachers, join online groups,
Share your experiences, ask questions, learn from each other.
and most importantly, have fun. Rediscover the joy of learning alongside your students.
Math can be fun, really.
It can be. All right, that's it for this deep dive into the world of customizable math apps. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the links and resources we talked about. And until next time, keep diving!